Okay, I have to say something that most women would literally delete their account before admitting. Before I ever said a word to him, my body had already made up its mind. My thighs pressed together so hard under that table my legs started trembling. My breath broke mid-sentence like something inside me just short-circuited. Heat flooded up from my chest to my face while I sat there pretending everything was completely normal. Women don't announce it, we don't text you, we don't say it out loud, but our bodies confess everything. Through 9 signals so involuntary, so hardwired, that she cannot fake them, cannot stop them, and cannot take them back. I'm a woman, and I'm about to hand you the 9 signs her body is already saying yes before her mouth ever forms the words. Sign 5 is the one women are most terrified a man will finally figure out. And sign 8, that one is a story about a man who read every single sign perfectly and destroyed everything in under 1 second. Stay with me. Every signal I'm about to walk you through happens before her brain gives permission. She controls her words, she controls her smile. She cannot control any of this. Sign 1. The thigh press. Here's the sign most men have spent their entire lives sitting directly across from and never once noticed. When a woman is turned on, her thighs press together, hard. They cross tight. They shift under the table. They squeeze because her body is physically trying to manage the sensation building between her legs, and pressing them together is the most instinctive response she has. She cannot stop it any more than she can stop her heart rate from climbing. I've done this at a dinner table so hard my legs were shaking afterward. He was telling me some completely normal story about his week, but then his voice dropped. Just slightly. His eyes locked on mine and held 1 second too long. And my thighs slammed together on their own like my body had made a decision my brain hadn't even been consulted on. I remember thinking, don't look down, please don't look down. He was still talking. I was gripping the edge of composure with both hands while my body sat there confessing everything without my permission. Most men are watching her face, her smile, her laugh, her words. They never think to notice what's happening below the table. But the man who is actually paying attention catches the sudden leg cross right after he says something low and direct, the thighs pressing together when he leans in. That contradiction, lower body tight, upper body perfectly still, is the most honest signal she will ever give you. And she thinks you can't see it. She's wrong. Sign 2. The swallow. A man once stopped mid-sentence, looked directly at my throat, and didn't say a single word. He just paused, held eye contact, and smiled the smallest smile. And I realized he had just watched my throat move. I had swallowed hard without realizing it, and he caught it. I felt more exposed in that 1 second than I would have felt standing in front of him without a single piece of clothing on, because I didn't choose to swallow. My body did. The tension had flooded my system, dried my mouth completely, and my throat moved on its own to manage what was happening inside me. He saw it, he knew, and my throat tightened again, and I swallowed again. And this time we both understood exactly what that meant. When arousal spikes, adrenaline fires immediately. It pulls moisture away from the mouth and redirects it toward muscles that are preparing for something her conscious mind hasn't agreed to yet. Her mouth goes dry. Her neck tightens. The swallow is her body trying to reset, but all it does is broadcast the exact tension she's trying to hide. And the harder she fights it, the more visible it gets. Most men are filling every second with noise. They're talking through the precise moments her throat is giving her away. The man who creates deliberate pauses, who lets silence sit, is the man who watches her swallow through it and holds eye contact without flinching. That moment of silent recognition? More intimate than anything either of them could have said out loud. Her throat already confessed. But what her skin does next, she cannot cover up no matter what she's wearing. Sign 3. The skin bloom. Most men see goosebumps and think she's cold. They notice flushed cheeks and assume she's embarrassed. They watch the tiny hairs rise on her forearms and think the room temperature dropped. None of that is what's happening. When those responses appear while you're close, while your eyes are on hers, while your voice is in her ear, her skin is reacting to your presence exactly the same way it would react if your hands were already on her. You haven't touched her yet. Her body doesn't know the difference. The nerve pathways that fire during physical contact are identical to the ones that fire during the anticipation of it. I was sitting beside a man at a bar. Our arms weren't touching, maybe an inch of air between us. But I could feel heat radiating off his skin. And then the goosebumps started. My forearms first, then across my shoulders, then down my thighs under the fabric of my dress. I looked down and watched my own skin respond to a man who had never laid a finger on me. That single inch of charged air between us was more electric than most actual physical contact I have experienced in my life. Once you understand that her skin is already reaching for you before your hands ever move, you will never think about proximity the same way again. If these first 3 signs just rewired how you read every conversation going forward, hit like right now. And subscribe, because sign 5, the one I said I was most afraid to explain, is coming up next. Do not close this video. Sign 4. The neck surrender. She tilts her head and exposes the side of her throat toward you, not looking away, not stretching a sore muscle. She is bearing the single most vulnerable part of her body in your direction. And she has absolutely no idea she's doing it. I caught myself doing this on a second date, and it genuinely scared me. I was leaning on my hand, head tilted, my entire throat open toward a man I had known for 3 hours. I didn't choose that position. The moment I realized how exposed I was, body angled forward, neck completely unguarded, I felt like someone else had made that decision for me. I sat up straight, crossed my arms, pulled back. 5 minutes later, I looked down and my neck was open toward him again. My body kept surrendering to this man even while my mind was actively trying to take back control. That was the moment I understood. I was already past the point of deciding. Exposing the throat is hardwired into every mammal on this planet. It is a submission signal older than language, older than civilization, older than everything. When she's aroused, the impulse to show vulnerability to the man causing it overrides every self-protective instinct she has. She tilts without deciding. She opens without thinking. A woman with her chin tucked down, shoulders raised, hand hovering near her neck. She is closed. A woman with her head tilted, the full curve of her throat visible, voice getting quieter, gaze holding 1 second longer than it needs to. Her biology is saying yes, while her mouth is still forming ordinary words. Sign 5, the breath fracture. This is the one I told you to pay attention to. The one that terrifies me most to explain, because this is the signal I have zero control over. Her breathing catches, stutters, goes deeper, faster, audible, in a way she cannot suppress, and cannot fake, and cannot walk back. She can manage her words, her posture, her expressions, her hands. She cannot manage her breathing when her body is aroused. It is the one confession she has no power over. Breathing is regulated by the same autonomic system that governs heart rate and arousal. When desire spikes, her body demands more oxygen. Heart rate climbs, adrenaline floods, and her breathing fractures. A sharp inhale when you lean close. A breath that stops her mid-sentence and won't restart. An exhale that comes out heavier and slower than either of you expected. These are real-time confessions. She cannot rehearse them. She cannot will them away. When you learn to hear this, you will know things about her she hasn't admitted to herself yet. I was at dinner, normal conversation, and there was something in the way he looked at me, like he was seeing through every layer of composure I'd spent years building. And then he leaned forward, just slightly, and my breath caught audibly in the middle of a sentence. I stopped talking because my lungs just stalled, and he heard it. I know he heard it because his eyes changed. He didn't say anything. He just paused. And in that half-second of silence, something passed between us that was more intimate than anything physical. My breathing had just confessed what my words would have never said out loud. Not in a year of knowing him. I felt completely exposed. Not by him, but by how completely my own body had just betrayed me. The man who catches the breath fracture is the man who creates stillness instead of noise. When you hear her breathing change, lower your voice, move closer, let the silence stretch, do not name what just happened. That shared, unspoken knowledge that you both felt it is the most charged quiet 2 people can occupy together. Sign 6, the heat response. This is not a metaphor. This is not she feels warm feelings. This is literal, physical heat. Her internal body temperature is rising because of you. Blood flow has increased throughout her entire body, and it is radiating through her skin. and the cooling responses start automatically. She fans herself. She pushes her sleeves up. She reaches for something cold. Not because the room changed, because she did. I was at dinner and I felt heat building from my chest outward. I pulled my jacket off, pressed my cold glass against the inside of my wrist. I wasn't even conscious of why I was overheating until he leaned back and said quietly, "You look warm." And in that single moment, my mind jumped forward, past the dinner, past the goodbye, past the door closing behind us, to exactly where that heat was going. The fantasy arrived before I could stop it, and I felt my face flush even deeper, which made everything dramatically worse. Most men hear, "It's warm in here," and take it at face value. The aware man notices she was perfectly comfortable 20 minutes ago, and the heat started after a specific moment, after his voice dropped lower, after a specific pause. When she reaches for something cold right after a charged exchange, that is not the room, that is you. Sign 7. The hip turn. Quick question. When you're talking to a woman, which direction are her hips facing? Not her shoulders, not her smile, her hips. Most men have never once considered this in their lives. But hips are the one structure in the body that cannot be socially manipulated. Shoulders turn out of politeness. A smile performs for the room. Hips tell you exactly, precisely, with zero ambiguity where her body wants to go. I was at a party, deep in conversation with a friend, when a man walked into our group. 10 minutes later, my friend leaned close and whispered, "Your entire body is pointed at him." I looked down. She was right. My shoulders, my hips, my knees, my feet, all of it had rotated toward this man without a single conscious decision. I didn't even know I was attracted to him yet. My mind was still running conversation, but my hips had already chosen him. Her hips squaring toward you when her shoulders could be pointed anywhere. That is not politeness. That is not habit. When her center faces your center, her body has made a choice. Her brain hasn't announced yet. Watch her lower body in group settings. That is where the truth lives. Sign 8. The freeze. I need to tell you about the man who had every single thing right. He'd caught my thigh press earlier. I saw his eyes flicker down and back up without a word. He heard my breath fracture across the table and held the silence like he knew exactly what he'd just witnessed. My skin was reacting. My neck was exposed. My hips had turned toward him an hour ago. Every signal in this video was firing at once, and then he leaned in closer, and I froze. Not a flinch, not a pull back. Complete, total stillness. My body was absorbing what it felt like to have him that close, processing the full weight of wanting him there. And he read my stillness as rejection. He pulled back, said sorry, created distance, and something inside me collapsed. Not faded, shattered. Not because he moved closer. That was exactly right. Because he apologized for the very thing my entire body was welcoming. His retreat felt like he had reached into my chest and pulled something out that I was a single breath away from giving him willingly. I went cold from the inside out. The attraction died in that one backward step. Listen closely. When you move into her space and she goes completely still, no resistance, no flinch, just absolute silence in her body, that is not rejection. That is her nervous system being overwhelmed by positive sensation. Her body stopped moving because every single bit of processing power she has is dedicated to feeling you. Movement would break the spell. Stillness protects it. When she freezes, hold. Do not pull back. Do not apologize. Stay exactly where you are and let that stillness breathe. The difference between the man she thinks about for months and the man she forgets by morning is whether he held his ground during the freeze or flinched first. Sign 9. The grip reflex. The last time this happened to me, I didn't even realize it was happening until he looked down at my hand. Her fingers tighten around whatever she's holding. A glass, the armrest, the edge of a table, her own thigh. When arousal reaches its peak and has nowhere left to go, it overflows through the hands. Gripping is the body's final pressure valve, the last involuntary signal before she either acts on what she's feeling or it consumes her completely. This signal only appears when everything else on this list is already firing. Remember the thigh press from the very beginning? That was her body's first response. The grip reflex is its last. We were sitting side by side. His hand was resting near mine on the table. I could feel heat radiating between our fingers without touching. Everything I've described in this entire video was happening inside me simultaneously. And then he said something. I don't even remember what. And my hand gripped the edge of that table so hard my knuckles went white. He looked down at my hand, then looked up at me, and I knew he knew. My hands were gripping the table because they wanted to grip him. And then, he did something no man has ever done before. He reached over, gently loosened my fingers from the edge of the table, and held my hand instead. Something inside me settled completely, like my whole body exhaled for the first time all night. The decision was made, not in my mind, in my body, and it was absolute. 9 signals, 9 involuntary confessions her body makes without her permission. The thigh press, the swallow, the skin bloom, the neck surrender, the breath fracture, the heat response, the hip turn, the freeze, the grip reflex. She cannot fake a single one. She cannot rehearse them. She cannot suppress them. And now you know exactly what every one of them looks like. Here is what matters most. Recognizing these signals is not the same as assuming consent. Her body responding to you is the beginning of a conversation, not the conclusion of one. One signal alone means nothing: habit, temperature, coincidence. But when 3 or more of these appear together in the same conversation, coincidence is dead. 1 sign, notice it. 2 signs, pay close attention. 3 or more firing at once, her body has made a decision. Respond accordingly. The man who reads these correctly does 2 things simultaneously. He acts with confidence because he can see the invitation, and he stays calibrated in real time because he respects the woman giving it. You are not here to push past anything. You are here to finally hear what she has already been saying. Most men walk through life completely deaf to what women are showing them. They miss invitations. They misread the freeze. They let moments die because they were too busy performing to pay attention. He was not better than you. He was paying attention. Now you are too. Hit like if this changed how you see every interaction with a woman going forward. Drop a comment. Tell me which sign you've been missing your whole life. I read all of them. And subscribe right now because next I'm walking you through exactly how to respond to each of these 9 signals in real time. The exact moves that turn recognition into action. That video is coming, and you do not want to miss it. Her body has been talking to you your entire life. Now you finally speak the language.